and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway and books. And in today's video, I'll be continuing my Broadway show series where I talk about every Broadway show I ever got to see. So normally in the series on my channel, I go over a few things, such as who was in the cast of my performance, who was on the creative team, how I like the show, anything interesting I might find in the playbill. So before I get to all of that, can you tell I'm excited about Ryan Gosling performing I'm Just Ken at the Oscars? I'm filming this video the day before the Oscars, but I am just so excited for this moment. But yeah, now on to today's show. So today I'll be talking about the 37th Broadway show I ever got to see, which was when I saw a Broadway musical with one of the most memorable names of a Broadway musical in the history of Broadway musicals, and that would be Urinetown the musical. So I did see the show in October 2003 at the Henry Miller Theater, and in case you didn't know, the Henry Miller Theater is still in New York, but just not in the way it was before. This theater, since I saw since I saw it at this theater, I should say, has since undergone a massive renovation and is a quite beautiful theater now called the Stephen Sondheim Theater, which is now the current home to a musical called And Juliet. So in case you didn't know all that, now you do. Now I'll get on to what's in the playbill. So here are the headshots of everyone in the entire cast. So before I talk about who was in the cast of my performance, there were quite a lot of people out of the show the day I went to see it, which is something I really truly did not remember until I looked in the playbill. And someone had also just joined the show at this point as well, so I'll share all that now. Usually for the most part I can remember when people are out of the show when I see a show, but I really had no memory of this, so. But very thankful for understudies because they helped the show go on. And last but not least, so yeah, now I'll just, go over who's in the cast at my performance and point out names I may recognize from having seen the other Broadway shows since I saw them in Urinetown, or maybe shows before that. So Carol Calmello was in the show at this point, and I did see her in a Broadway show before this. I saw her in Kiss Me Kate, but she's done so many Broadway shows, and I've got to see her in so many Broadway shows, and she's just an absolutely amazing performer. Luther Creek was in the show, Rick Crom, Danny Gerwin, Spencer Caden, who was a part of the original cast of Urinetown, so it was pretty cool to get to see her in this show. Jeff McCarthy was also a part of the original cast of Urinetown, and he was still in the show up to this point as well, but he was one of the performers who was out of the show the day I went, but he was still in the show at this point. So that was pretty cool. Charles Shaughnessy was in the show at this point, and his name might sound familiar to you because he was in a very well-known TV show with Fran Drescher called The Nanny. So very cool to get to see him in the show. Amy Spanger was in the show as well, and this was the first show I ever got to see Amy Spanger in. I'm just such a fan of hers. She went on to be in some of my favorite Broadway musicals ever, The Wedding Singer, Rock of Ages, Elf, and before she was in this show, she was in a show called Tick, Tick, Boom off Broadway, and I always wanted to see that show with when she was in it with Raul Esparza and Jerry Dixon. I never got to see it though, but I'm a huge fan of that cast album, so at this point in time, it was really cool to get to see her in like the next show she did, because I was such a fan of Tick, Tick, Boom, like I said. But yeah, now I'll get on to the creative team, point out names I may recognize from having seen them work on other Broadway shows since Urinetown, or maybe before that. So the lighting design was done by Brian McDevitt, and his name sounds very familiar to me. I can't remember what shows he's worked on off the top of my head at this moment in time, but he's definitely worked on other Broadway shows. Musical staging was done by John Carafa, and up to this point I had seen a show that he had been a part of. He did the choreography for Into the Woods, the 2002 revival, and then John Rando directed a show. John Rando directed another show I saw before I saw him direct this show called Dance of the Vampires. Yeah, that was a very well-known Broadway flop, but there's that. But yeah, he's a really great person to direct over-the-top campy musicals, because Urinetown was just that, and so was Wedding Singer. So yeah, he did a really great job with the direction of the show. And now I'll get on to how I liked Urinetown, the Broadway show with one of the most memorable names in the history of Broadway shows. I remember I liked this show. I saw the show quite a while ago, and despite, I do remember liking the show, having a great time at it, enjoying myself. It was a very enjoyable show. I wouldn't call it a favorite, and for that reason, I just don't remember a lot about the show. I do remember that it's very much a over-the-top, campy musical comedy that it's just a lot of fun. And like I said, I had a lot of fun at this show. As far as how I like the show and the specifics of why I like the show, that I don't remember. Just too much time has gone by. And as far as like the musical numbers, it's a score that unfortunately has not stayed with me. I don't remember the score at all, really, with the exception of one number called Run Freedom Run. And I'm pretty sure I remember that because they performed that song on the Tony Awards when they were nominated for that year. But yeah, it's a show I just remember liking. It's fun, over the top, campy musical, and I love those kind of musicals. So despite not remembering a lot about the show, I do remember I like the show. And yeah. So now I'll get on to what is in the, I guess before I get to what's in the playbill, I was able to wait at the stage door, and, all the signatures are in pen, so I'm not sure it's super visible, but I got to meet a lot of the cast. I met Charles Shaughnessy, Amy Spanger, Rick Chrome, Daniel Marcus, I believe, and Spencer Caden, and yeah, so I got all their signatures, and it was really cool to get to go away at the stage door, and especially meet Amy Spanger, because like I said, up to this point, I was such a fan of Tick Tick Boom, and she has since gone on to be in some of my favorite Broadway shows, so it was very cool to get to meet her. So now I'll get on to what's in the playbill. So, like I said, saw the show October 2003. And I'll just point out some things in the playbill that maybe I think are worth sharing. So up to this point, I saw Urinetown the musical on October 11th, 2003. But a new musical had just started on Broadway on October 7th. A musical, just in the very early stages, less than a week of previews at this point. A musical that will go on to be, still on Broadway to this day. And that was just like a show you may or may not have heard of. Wicked had just started on Broadway. Moment in time, right? Back when the show had just began. So, I will be talking about the show shortly in a few videos from now, because I did see it in December 2003. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And I think that's it. There's a Broadway advertisement for Taboo when it was off on Broadway. Oh my gosh. I really wanted to see this, but like at the time when I was seeing shows, it was mostly bus trips for the most part. Every once in a while going on my own, but there was no bus trip for this, and it was a very short-lived show, but I really wanted to see this show up, but I missed out. But it was kind of like here and then gone, so yeah, it happens. But some advertisements for Charles Shaughnessy. Like I said, I saw him in Urinetown when I saw the show. And then an advertisement for Fame, which was currently playing off Broadway. Which, be sure to stay tuned because I did see Fame in October 2003. Another show I saw in October 2003 as well. And it will be the first video in my new upcoming off-Broadway show series. Off-Broadway shows that I've seen. So, be sure to stay tuned for that. Yeah, so I guess I'll just point out the next show I'll be talking about in the series, which will be my 38th Broadway show that I ever got to see, which will be when I saw the musical Moving Out. Great show, and can't wait to talk about it. So if you made it to this point in the video, thank you so very much for watching me talk about my 37th Broadway show, which was when I saw Urinetown the musical. So be sure to stay tuned for my next video in this series where I talk about my 38th Broadway show, which was when I saw the musical Moving Out. So if you made it to this point of this video, thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, bye!